Alex, you said it a million times. The only thing consistent about the Atlanta Falcons has been their inconsistencies. And after they had their best performance of the year, they turn in one of their worst performances of the year. And there were a lot of people coming out after last week being like, oh, Arthur Smith saved his job. I'm like, if 1 week saved this man's job, it doesn't even make any sense, because I guarantee you, we already know what's going to come next week. They're going to play like absolute crap. They looked absolutely abysmal. The Bears looked so far ahead of the Falcons. And it was something that I was kind of worried about, because Bears have been playing pretty good football, just playing a different brand of football. Like, they actually care and have life. And even though they're out of the playoffs and not in the picture, it seemed like they cared a lot more and were a lot confident and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts now on Arthur Smith? It kind of seems like he has a very good chance of being fired. And maybe it really is just on this week.
See, it depends who you ask. I'm going to go through a couple of reports. Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, before the Bears game, came out and said that Arthur Smith's job is likely safe. Now, none of this is in absolutes. They all say seemingly, or it's likely, or who they've talked to. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. And then following the Bears game, Jason La Canfora, who has a history of misreporting things, so take that also with a grain of salt, says he fully expects the Falcons to move on from Arthur Smith, even quoting a couple of current GMs saying, they also expect Arthur Smith to be out after this year. And then Jeremy Fowler came out today and said that he thinks Arthur Smith is safe. So it depends where you ask. It depends where you go. And my feeling is nobody knows. And it's because this team has been so wishy-washy against the Colts. Like you said, best performance of the season, bar none. But as I pointed out, the process was no different. Taylor Heinicke still put the ball in harm's way. And you saw that the chickens came home to roost against the Bears. Taylor Heinicke throws 4 interceptions, whatever, however many interceptions. I lost count.
And then Desmond Ritter came in and threw one.
Yeah, so, I mean, that just shows you the process has not changed. The results just changed against the Colts. The Colts didn't capitalize on some of those turnovers. Where do I feel? I still feel the same way as I felt halfway through the season, that the Falcons have a quarterback issue. They don't necessarily have a head coaching issue. You give Arthur Smith a top 10 quarterback, and this team is a playoff contender. Hell, give him an average quarterback. Give him Baker Mayfield, and this team is a playoff contender. My sentiments haven't changed. Arthur Smith is a prickly guy. I really don't know how to feel about him personally, but in terms of coaching, I watched this guy drag 2 of the worst rosters I've ever seen to 7 wins with a shell Matt Ryan with a noodle arm. Marcus Mariota shouldn't have been a starter in the league. And Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heinicke, who are, lifelong backups. So, get this guy a real quarterback, and then I'll, have a more definitive thought. Now, obviously, changes have to be made. Chase, speak to that. There has to be changes.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. No matter what offensive changes to the coaches, bringing in an OC, what passing game coordinators, whatever it is, like, there has to be new guys in the building. And we said last week that's probably much easier to change than Arthur Smith. But it just, like, I don't know, man. Like, and this is why it's so wishy-washy. It's because, like, it just seems like the process, like, there's just something it turns off everyone that's watching the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care if you're a Rams fan. Like, you're probably pissed off watching the Falcons, and just think about how Falcons fans feel. Like, it just seems like every week I'm more pissed off. And then, like, they win a game and you're kind of pissed off that they won that way, because you're like, I knew they could do it. Why are they not doing this more consistently? And then it's just like, they're going to fail next week. And, like, when you have a coach like that, it almost feels like, yeah, I don't know if this guy's the right guy. But I agree with you. The quarterback's the biggest issue. That wasn't going to change with Taylor Heinicke. Anyone who thought that was going to change with Taylor Heinicke hasn't watched Taylor Heinicke play, not just this year, but throughout his entire career. But it just, the lack of, adjustments, development, changes, and maybe they're just too hard to make because you don't have a quarterback that can do them. It just, it's shockingly how predictable this team is. It's shocking. And it's the same problems. We lose a game, don't get our guys involved. We win a game, get our guys involved. Lose a game, don't get our guys involved. And we're not just losing games. Get blown out, get loose to the 1-12 Panthers. Get blown out by the Bears. Like, it's embarrassing losses.
Listen, a good quarterback makes up for an average system. And I know what Falcons fans are going to say. All right, let's go get a guy with a great system. Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, those guys aren't growing on trees. I hate this notion that the next guy is going to be it. It's just ridiculous to think more often than not. And like 80% of head coaching hires fail, and like 70 probably fail within the first couple years. I'm not saying Arthur Smith is great, because he's not. I'd be lying to you. But also, having a good quarterback is going to make a guy look better. I always point to the Bengals and Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor would be out of a job if he didn't have Joe Burrow. And it's not because I'm an LSU fan. It's because he's a bad offensive coach. But Joe Burrow and those wide receivers make him look like a genius. And it's the same thing with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay throughout their tenure. It's a very vanilla system that you got talent, and it makes it work. I can't stand when people act like Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson might be great, but you have no idea. And until we figure out a quarterback, none of it matters. None of it matters.
I think the biggest thing that Falcons fans are probably sitting here today in response to that is, do you really want a Mike McCarthy? If you finally get your Aaron Rodgers, do you really want Arthur Smith in the building with Aaron Rodgers? Because
Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl, but you had him for 15 years and you won one Super Bowl. And you could have said, like, he very easily could have won no Super Bowls. Like, do you even want that? Do you think Arthur Smith is a coach capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl, even if they get the right quarterback under center? And let's be honest, the odds that we get the next Aaron Rodgers, pretty damn small. Let's just say we're more likely to get an average, or let's say a top 10 quarterback, more like a Dak Prescott. Do you want to be Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys with Arthur Smith or something like that?
Finding an elite quarterback and an elite head coach are similarly difficult. There are 5 elite quarterbacks and there's 5 elite head coaches, or roughly, you could say there's 7 elite quarterbacks and maybe 7 or 8 elite head coaches, or even less. So it's not like one is harder to find than the other. They're both equally hard. And we've seen time and time again where a coach, needs to have a quarterback in order to succeed. I mean, nobody was questioning Bill Belichick until Tom Brady left. I mean, that's your answer right there. Mike Vrabel looked like he was on his way to being an elite head coach with just a decent quarterback in Ryan Tannehill before the roster kind of fell apart. So I really do think a quarterback matters significantly more than a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you, I think we both feel the same way as we understand the frustrations, because it's been a hell of a ride. And the Falcons have screwed over fans time and time again throughout my entire lifetime. But this is a special type of hell that we've been in this year. It has been a special type of hell. It's been wild. There's just no consistency. You have a head coach that's kind of.
One more thing. We're just pushing one more minute. I do want to say this. I see both sides of the fence for Arthur Blank. I am not advocating for Arthur Smith to keep his job. I'm just voicing my, frustrations that it's the quarterback play, in my opinion. With that being said, I would not argue with Arthur Blank. The seats have been empty all year. I've been to 3 or 4 games outside of the season opener, even against the Saints, the first Saints game. The stadium was not as filled as it may have sounded or looked on TV. I promise you. The stadium is not being filled. 3 top 10 picks on the offensive side of the ball, and we're still in the 20s of scoring. So I totally get the sentiment of, like, what are you good at, Arthur Smith? So I get it. I'm not advocating, but I'm just saying the quarterback play is atrocious.
I was at the Bucks game this past weekend, and I was like telling my friend, I'm so jealous. You guys actually have people in the stadium. There's nothing like, and y'all aren't good either. Like, at least you have people there. Coming up after the break, Michael Penix, the star of the college football playoff semifinals. Would he be a good fit in Atlanta?